It is 2025, and Ben Affleck's daughter just went to the UN begging for mask mandates. Yes, you heard that right.
Of Gen Z, she's a climate champion, and she's a clean indoor air advocate. Violet.
Thank you so much. Which way is the live stream camera?
I imagine it's straight down there.
Thank you. Okay. My mom is watching and my cousin is watching for her interior design class. She gets lead credit. Anyway, distinguished guests, thank you for having me. I feel so humbled to be here. I represent a generation that in many ways already knows how we've been failed. We are no strangers to protesting injustice. This summer alone has seen youth uprisings in Nepal, Angola, and Indonesia, to say nothing of ongoing youth mobilization worldwide for a free Palestine. And wherever we live, we've grown up in the shadow of the climate crisis with the threats, sacrifices, and scarcities that will entail looming over us. We know what that means for our lives, in no small part thanks to the people in this room. And we are told by leaders across the board that we are the future. But when it comes to the ongoing pandemic, our present is being stolen right in front of our eyes. For adults, the relentless beat of back to normal, ignoring, downplaying, and concealing both the prevalence of airborne transmission and the threat of long COVID, manifested in a series of choices. Young people lacked both real choice in the matter and information about what was being chosen for us. Here's what we know about SARS-CoV-2. It is airborne, floating and lingering in the air. One infection can result in disabling damage to almost every cell in the body, from the brain and heart to the nerves and blood vessels. Every subsequent infection increases the risk of long COVID and places people who already have it in greater danger. Here's what we don't know, is what it does to reinfect children over and over and over again with no end point in sight from the day they are born. We are about to find out. As Dr. Akiko Iwasaki says, at this point, the whole population is the control group, and after only 5 years, long COVID has surpassed asthma as the most common chronic illness in children. 5 years. I am terrified for the children who do not or soon will not know a world without debilitating pain and exhaustion, who cannot trust their bodies to play, explore, and imagine, and who will not know the potential of their own minds unfettered by the cognitive damage from a COVID-19 infection. And I am furious on their behalf. It is neglect of the highest order to look children in the eyes and say, we knew how to protect you, and we didn't do it. We have access to a technology to prevent airborne disease, something that millions of our ancestors and millions of people around the world today would kill for, and we refuse to use it. And I shudder to think of where we will be in another 5 years of unmitigated infection and reinfection. But let me say on the topic of generational memory that while I imagine no one in this room was alive in the time of Jon Snow or Ignaz Semmelweis, many of you fought the long and hard battle against indoor smoking. My only memory of that era, at almost 20 years old, is being confused as a child about the no smoking signs on planes. Who would do that? That's gross. My hope for this event and my belief in this community rest on the belief that we can and we must do that again. We can recognize filtered air as a human right as intuitively as we do filtered water. We can create clean air infrastructure that is so ubiquitous and so obviously necessary, tomorrow's children don't even know why we need it. We need the people who remember 2020, who were not, like me, 14 in 2020, to be loud about the world that we were promised at the onset of the pandemic, when we and our institutions promised each other that if we only got out of that desperate acute phase, we would do everything we could to protect our communities going forward. And we need the people who are born now, we owe it to the people who are born now, that they take that world for granted.
Why is it all the kids of celebrities are insane? I mean, it seems like they're either trans or they're, I mean, here she is wearing a mask. It is 2025 and Violet Affleck is still wearing a mask, going to the UN demanding mask mandates. I mean, what in the world is going on here with this? Let me play for you another clip when she spoke in front of Los Angeles, also wanting more mask mandates.
I contracted a post-viral condition in 2019. I'm okay now, but I saw firsthand that medicine does not always have answers to the consequences of even minor viruses. The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown that into sharper relief. 1 in 10 infections leads to long COVID, which is a devastating neurological cardiovascular illness that can take away people's ability to work, move, see, and even think, stands to exacerbate our homelessness crisis, as well as the suffering of many people in our city. It hits communities of color, disabled people, elderly people, trans people, women, and anyone in a public-facing essential job the hardest. To confront the long COVID crisis, I demand mask availability, air filtration, and far UVC light in government facilities, including jails and detention centers, and mask mandates in county medical facilities. We must expand the availability of high-quality free tests and treatment, and most importantly, the county must oppose mask bans for any reason. They do not keep us safer. They make vulnerable members of our community less safe and make everyone less able to participate in Los Angeles together. Thank you.
I'm just having a difficult time understanding why in 2025 this clearly bright young woman, I don't care who she's the kids of, although that might explain some things, but why is this bright young woman like demanding mask mandates and wearing a mask all around because she's deathly afraid of? I mean, this is the problem, is that you can't really blame her. Right? I mean, you can't blame her. You can't blame Violet Affleck. You can't blame her generation because she's right. She was 14. She's 19 now. She was 14 when the pandemic started. And all she saw on the news, and especially being that she's kid of Hollywood, and although Ben Affleck doesn't agree with her on this, well, I don't know if he doesn't agree with her, but he certainly, let me just read this post that was put out there. This is from Unlimited L's, like a news reporting on Ben Affleck told his daughter Violet to be realistic about her campaigning and not rely on his celebrity status after she was left struggling and extremely disheartened by the response to her pro-mask speech. Violet Affleck is reportedly struggling with the ridicule and feels alone in her fight to strengthen pandemic-era protections. Well, yes, you would be alone in this because people are over it. People do not want to live in the pandemic perpetually. Says, quote, Ben had a conversation with her and told her that she needs to be realistic with this because he doesn't want her to waste all of her time putting effort into something that probably won't make a difference in the long run. He knows how strongly she feels about this, but now that Violet is an adult, he felt that it was his duty to let her know that she is David fighting Goliath and that most people, unfortunately, do not feel the same way she does about this. He was also concerned that Violet felt as if her parents' star power was going to be able to guarantee her the outcome that she wanted, which in this case, it is not. Violet is extremely disheartened and feels that her plea did nothing more than set her up for future ridicule, the insider continued. She believes that her plea for mask mandates fell on deaf ears because it isn't even being considered. Thank God. She stopped reading the critique, and while she's proud of her bravery in doing this, she sees no point in pushing the envelope even further. That was last year. She clearly is still at it because she is still out there advocating for mask mandates, even just yesterday at the UN. So, and I think Ben from this source did the right thing. You want to soften it. This is your kid. You're not going to say, look, you're an idiot, take the mask off and stop being, and nobody wants to wear masks. And, I think the way that it's framed, if this source is correct, was the right way to frame it with your kid. Like, look, unfortunately, most people just aren't going to agree with you on this. And, you're kind of David fighting Goliath, and you're probably, don't put all of this, don't put your whole heart and soul into this. And it's probably good he had that conversation with her, like, don't put your whole heart and soul into this because you're not going to win. People are just not going to go for this. Thank goodness they're not, but people aren't. And so, look, Violet seems highly intelligent. She goes to Yale, which is not a plus point these days. I'm sure people are looking at her and the fact that she goes to Yale and they're saying, see, this is exactly the problem that we're getting in these liberal indoctrination universities, these indoctrination mills, because look, you end up with these 19-year-olds wearing masks, demanding everybody wears masks because she thinks that it's still going to stop COVID. She thinks it's still going to stop kids from getting COVID. And I wonder how many jabs she got and if she's concerned about the jab at all, or is she just concerned about everybody needs to wear a mask and prevent COVID, the spread of COVID, which masks we know did not prevent the spread of COVID. So, and then she would say, well, they weren't wearing them properly. They weren't wearing the right masks. Well, unless you're going to wear a mask 24/7, including in the shower and while you sleep, you're not going to be able to prevent COVID with a mask. You're just not going to. The virus will figure out a way to spread because that's what viruses do. But it's just insane but again, I want to point out, we could make fun that she's a celebrity kid and that she's clearly off her rocker. But the fact is that she was indoctrinated by the mainstream media, by everybody, all the liberals that I'm sure she hangs out with in her circle at home and the circle her parents hang out with. And they just believed that death was upon everybody. and that and that's all these kids heard. And this was my fear, was that the kids would end up growing up to being sociopaths, essentially. That they're all wearing masks. They can't read facial expressions. They don't know how to read somebody's emotions on their face because they can't see their faces and they haven't seen their faces. So they're growing up without the ability to really communicate, without the ability to really read emotion. And they were told that grandma was going to die if they went around her, and that everybody was killing grandma and everybody was killing each other. And all these people that did want to wear masks, excuse me, I should have worn a mask. Excuse me, I just sneezed and I wasn't wearing a mask, and now you're all infected. You're all infected, especially you, Violet. I'm in a room by myself, Violet. Don't worry. No one is here with me, so it's perfectly safe. I don't need to wear a mask, or maybe I should, by myself, while I'm driving in my car. I saw many of those people. But you really can't blame her generation too much because they were just all indoctrinated with fear. And this is, I think, the repercussions of that. And this is the fear that I have with these young kids growing up, is that they're thinking like her. I mean, I don't even know what generation she is. Is she Gen Z? 19 is pretty young. I feel like that's the generation like beyond that, right? Because millennials are now like in their 40s and 30s. And so Gen Z would be like, maybe she's Gen Z. Maybe she's at the tail end of Gen Z, something like that. But we're screwed, guys. I mean, if this is the next generation, I mean, we have to think about what this pandemic did to their brains. I mean, it really messed them up. And guess what? They're the future leaders of America. She's clearly articulate. She's clearly intelligent. I mean, you could make fun of her for being Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner's kid all along, all you want, but she's clearly very, very intelligent, being a dummy on this. But these are the future leaders of America. That should frighten every last one of us. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.